Tonight on Let It Rip, 2 weeks out for the Michigan primary, and former President Trump is making a big push for your vote this weekend. But with him pushing 80 and President Biden past that marker, the two likely finalists ready to duke it out on the debate stage. Our Let It Rip panel weighs in on that, and if our purple state will stay blue or turn red. But first, just a day after the one-year anniversary of the MSU shooting, terror at the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl parade, it's put the gun control debate back front and center again, all while new laws take effect in Michigan. While some say more needs to be done, others believe it won't make a difference. That debate starts now. Time now to Let It Rip with Chad King from Black Bottom Gun Club, retired Detroit Police Assistant Chief Steve Dolan, Republican State Senator Jim Runstad, and Democratic State Representative Noah Arbit. Our Fox 2 anchor and attorney Charlie Langton with us as always. And so with that, let's let it rip. Let's talk about these new laws that took effect this week. Chad, I'll begin with you. A couple of the points. If you have a firearm in your home and you have minor children, the firearm needs to be stored in a locked box. If you do not have a locked box, then it needs to be unloaded with a trigger lock in it. These laws now on the books in the state of Michigan. What's wrong with that?
Well, I'll just start by saying I don't think anything is wrong with firearm safety. I think that every firearms owner should be responsible enough to secure their firearms to ensure that no one gets it to harm themselves or harm anyone else or has any criminal intent with it. That being said, unfortunately, I think these are punitive laws as opposed to corrective laws. It's reactive instead of proactive. What do I mean by that? I think that what we could do instead is incentivize firearm safety as opposed to punishing someone who may or may not have children or whatever the case may be. And if someone takes a firearm, they're held liable as the person who, took the firearm or used it, or as the child who found it. I think that if we incentivize firearm safety, that would have a lot more impact than making it punitive.
But Chet, isn't what when you watch something happen, you turn the television on, you find out that someone was convicted of a crime, and you say, wait a minute, I don't want to be in that boat. Doesn't that help to have punitive measures in place?
I don't know that it helps entirely, because we still have the criminal activity. We still have criminal misuse of firearms that occur still. We still have criminal negligence, right? I don't think that it necessarily makes a difference in the way that we think it should, and that's why I prefer incentivizing safety.
All right, so we have a couple other things on the books. Steve Dolan, you worked in Detroit for so many years on the streets as a police officer and then management. Here we have this red flag law that really is kind of taking effect. A judge could order someone to surrender their weapon, otherwise law enforcement has to go in and get it. Right. This puts law enforcement in a position where they're already strapped, in a position where they have to go in and do this. Is this reasonable? Is this going to work?
There's problems with that, and as a former law enforcement officer, if my wife, girlfriend, whoever says, Steve Dolan has a problem with guns, you need to take the gun away from him, and they can, just like that. I lost my livelihood, and it's a blanket. It's not because I'm mental, I probably am, but the point is I wouldn't shoot anybody. So and yet, but they say, take the gun from him, and then the police go, and they know me, and they come and say, hey boss, we got to take your gun, you can't have a gun anymore. What did I do?
Well, Noah, and this is where Representative Arbit, I wanted to ask you, you're kind of on the front lines of the legislature, literally passing this bill. There's people out there who say, what if a neighbor or a relative just has an issue or a gripe with somebody and says, you know what, this guy's dangerous, and they have to take the gun away? Isn't that taking away someone's Second Amendment rights?
Well, there's a hearing that, has to be, gone through, and a judge has to issue the emergency risk protection order in order for the gun to be actually temporarily removed from that person. And so there is a threshold, there is a standard, a legal standard.
But not hard to do, though, right?
Well, I think it's going to have to be tested, in these hearings. We just found out today that there was an incident in Oakland County that today, one of the first in the state of Michigan, emergency risk protection orders was issued, and potentially a lot of lives were saved. And this was coming from someone who's a social worker in Oakland County, relayed this story to us. This is a proven anti-suicide measure in other states. Like, this isn't something that we, we're going from nothing with. We looked at other states' experiences and crafted the best legislation.
So, Chad, I see you shaking your head. What's wrong with what he said?
The problem with that is that between 2019 and 2022, the Associated Press did a study, and they, based on the results of their study, approximately 15,000 guns were confiscated under similar laws across 19 or 20 states, right? That equates to less than 10 guns per 100,000 registered adults. To me, that's not making a dent in the criminal misuse of firearms. That's not making a dent in the suicide rates. And so if we're going to study the laws that are on the books in other states, then they have to make sense. And if this is what the barometer is, if it's only 10 guns per 100,000 folks that's being confiscated, I need to see a little bit more data and information to validate that this is helpful.
I find this argument so disingenuous, because the argument is not, will we prevent this mass shooting or this gun violence event? You know, we have a duty to try. If we can save one life, then we have to.
Well,
we have a duty to try. All of these interventions are like Swiss cheese. You have to do them all. You have to layer the interventions in order to narrow the windows of opportunity for gun violence to occur.
Senator Runson, is that true? If you save one life, if you save one life, is it worth it?
What was disingenuous is this cockamamie committee. I'm the vice chair of the Judiciary. We had a 3-hour meeting, 3 hours. In the 3 hours, 2 hours in, I said, can one person opposite these bills come in and speak? And for the first time, when finally one person came up, she limited them to 2 to 3 minutes, letting everyone speak as long as they want, and then we continued on with nobody else on the other side. What happens, you get unintended consequences, such as this ridiculous bill says instead of the police, like in 14 states, come in and make a presentation to the judge as to why this is the evidence, your ex-boyfriend, your ex-girlfriend, your neighbor who doesn't like you, they can come in ex parte, you're not there, and make the case, I think he's suicide, I think he's dangerous.
This is
why the cops don't want to deal with this. The cops don't want to deal with it.
You don't trust judges? You don't trust judges in Oakland County to make the right decision?
Oh, the judge makes a mistake. He's toast. She's toast. The judge is toast. They go, yep.
But Senator Runson said
there's a lot easier ways to go after an ex than going to court to try to take their guns away.
Are you telling me that you think that this is going to be used in a way to just basically throw people under the bus just because people don't like them?
Oh, no ex-boyfriend or girlfriend would ever want to take revenge. No nasty neighbor would ever. You're right. This just would not happen in America.
Steve?
Get real.
I'm guessing he's being facetious.
I think he is.
I think he's being facetious.
Being facetious?
Yeah.
No. There are ex-boyfriends and girlfriends that don't like each other.
But that is one part of this that we're hearing a lot about.
I agree.
People are chiming in and they're saying, wait a minute here. Whether there's a hearing or not, the fact that I have to go through this because somebody said that they thought I was dangerous, that discretion shouldn't lie to a neighbor or an ex, someone who's a jilted ex-boyfriend or girlfriend.
Wait a minute, Steve. First of all, the first step is with the cops. If some crackpot goes to the police officer and says, my ex-girlfriend thinks I'm crazy, you can filter out the right and the wrong as well.
You're right.
So what you do, have to do police report.
Hold on. Let Steve answer that. Let Steve answer that.
They don't have to go to make a police report. That's the kicker.
That's it. It's true.
And if you do come in and I don't take your report because I'm filtering it, I get disciplined.
That's right.
So
who's disciplining you?
My bosses.
Representative Arbit, I'm going to ask you this. The bad guys out there, you look at what happened in Oxford. You look at what happened at Michigan State. These gun laws passed in part in honor of some of these victims. People say long overdue. However, in the MSU case, would anything have changed?
Again, that's the wrong question. That's the wrong question.
It's the one I'm asking, though.
But that's
whether you think it's a wrong question or not. It's a real question, and one that people at home are asking.
We're making policy in a prospective manner. We're not trying to go back and solve crimes and mass shootings that have already occurred. We're trying to narrow the windows of opportunity for gun violence to occur.
Lawmakers on the floor talked about Oxford and talked about MSU. So to say that you're saying it for any other reason.
No, we haven't. We have a responsibility, a duty to do our best to narrow the windows of opportunity for gun violence to occur in this state. That means layering the interventions. That means red flag laws. That means safe storage requirements. That means enforcing background checks.
I can't abide by
all of these policies that are going to narrow the windows of opportunity.
Chad, you're saying you can't abide by that.
Yeah, I can't abide by those because those are politically.
It's the law. You have to abide by it.
Those are politically reactive proposals that have been put in place, right?
They're not reactive. It's prospective.
They're absolutely reactive because none of the things that could actually reduce the criminal misuse of firearms has been done, right? We haven't done anything to reduce the criminal misuse of firearms or antisocial violence by way of changing economic statuses of folks, right? If you look at the Gini coefficient, which is a ratio of economic status that correlates to violence in a society, right? It always shows.
How long does it take to fix that?
I agree with
Are we
that.
talking generations?
No, I'm not saying it has to
Poor people break the law more than rich people. Is that what you're saying?
Well, what I'm saying is the greatest predictor of violence is economic status.
So poor people break the law.
All the other policies that this Democratic majority has passed, poverty, unemployment, trauma, abuse, mental health, all of those conditions are things that we have addressed in our policy.
In Oxford, had there been a law in the books like the safe storage law, when there was a minor in the house, and the law, as I understand the law, is to take that gun and lock it up so the minor can't get it, maybe Oxford wouldn't have happened. I don't know.
But let me ask you,
MSU, though?
Hold on. I don't know. Maybe not MSU.
Number one, it wouldn't have made a difference.
Your district, you represent.
It wouldn't have made a difference in Oxford because the mother was a nut job who did not even care about this kid. She wouldn't follow some law we
Steve Dolan, I'm going to ask you the question. I'm going to ask you the question, hold on, that everybody at home may be asking, which is this. If you're a bad guy, you're not looking at the laws. You're not following the laws. You could put 5 new laws in the books. I'm not following the last 3. What difference does it make for the bad guys who are already doing bad things?
It doesn't make a difference to the bad guys, because what they'll do, if they have to buy a gun, they get a straw purchase. They get their girlfriend to go buy a gun for them. She doesn't have a record. She goes in, buys the gun, he gets it.
Professor Arbit, I mean, that has to go through your mind, though.
What kind of society are we if we say that we can't protect our kids because criminals will still get around any law that we pass? That is dereliction of duty.
But maybe there's something more that needs to be done instead of just passing laws, don't you think?
Well, I am always eager to look at more solutions that we can offer in terms of preventing violence. Listen, I agree. People don't generally just wake up and commit crimes. Poverty, unemployment, mental health, trauma, abuse, all of those that create the conditions for people to commit acts
how do you
of
address
violence.
those issues?
I've got a great
We only have 30
solution for
seconds
the
left.
senator.
Go ahead.
I've got for the representative. Enforce the current laws. There's 80,000 felony firearms on the federal level, and Biden prosecuted 8,000 out of 80,000. The prosecutor in the MSU case did not file the proper charges and allowed him to go get the gun. That's on the prosecutor. The laws are in the books, and the prosecutor didn't.
Do you agree with that, Representative Arbit?
Woke prosecutor.
I think that most laws are prosecuted on the state level, and so we have to look at what are we doing on the state level. And so to me, as a state policymaker, as a state representative, that's what I'm looking at. What can we do to make sure that we are narrowing the windows of opportunity for gun violence?
Anybody who's watching this right now who doesn't think that we have a problem on our hands is living in a different universe. However, how do we get to a solution? We begin that conversation here, and we thank our panelists for joining us to start that in earnest. Thank you all for joining us here today. When we come back, former President Trump will rally in Michigan this weekend, but he's pushing 80, and President Biden is older than that. Many are questioning if both of them have what it takes to square off even in a debate or to lead the country. That debate, as Let It Rip rolls on. Back now, Let It Rip debating whether or not President Biden and former President Trump have what it takes for a presidential battle. I'm joined now by former Democratic State Representative Sherry Gay Degnago, former conservative host and radio personality Jim Johnson, Republican State Senator Jim Runstead, and Democratic State Representative Noah Arbit back with us, as is Fox 2 anchor and attorney Charlie Langton. And Jim, we thank you especially for joining us after your retirement. Congratulations. And
Thank
now
you.
He's a free agent. We've booked him on Let It Rip.
It's good to be back. I think I was here the first season of this show, and I haven't been back in 4 years, and I'm chomping at the bit. I've got a lot of stored up rage.
I can tell. I can tell. Well, let's begin with you. You said it's good to be back. You know who wants to say that in the White House is former President Trump.
100%.
And he's waiting to say those words, but he's coming to Michigan this Saturday. Let me throw out some numbers here. 4 years ago, Biden defeated Trump in Michigan by 3 percentage points, 154,000 votes. The difference between Trump and Biden in the state of Michigan. What changes this time?
Well, I think we do a better job of protecting the election, first of all, because I don't believe the numbers that came out of Michigan.
You think that Trump won?
I do. 100%.
You believe that?
100%.
Even though our own Republican group in Michigan and his own attorney general said that Biden won the election, you still don't believe
circle
that?
the wagons. What we needed in, not only here, but in Pennsylvania, Arizona, we needed a forensic audit where every signature was matched to every single ballot, and that never happened. And I think we're going to find out in the weeks, months, and years to come the amount of fraud that took place in this last election.
So it's only been 4 years. We haven't found out.
Not the least of which. Well, yes, we have. We certainly have found tons of fraud. How about the CIA putting their thumb on the scale by blocking information on social media?
But why then wouldn't Trump's own attorney general find wrongdoing? Why then would, I'm just being honest here about what we're seeing empirically. When we look at the legislature in Michigan taking a look, Republicans looking at this, and they found no wrongdoing.
Three. No, the rest of us would not have voted for that. They said the Senate Republicans said there was no fraud.
Was a committee,
it was three in a committee. 3 votes out of the entire the legislature, all over the media.
But they were Republicans, right?
It doesn't matter. You can always find 3 Republicans who'll break off and do anything you want them to do. There was only 3 in that.
3 Republicans.
Yeah.
3 state Republicans.
So how were they selected, Ronstadt?
By the majority leader who wanted his outcome, and he got his outcome.
So what happens here as we move forward? You have Biden and you have Trump, and you have Biden came to town. Now you have Trump coming to town. Let me break some numbers down for you. A new poll shows
Santa Claus came to town too.
Santa Claus did come to town in Michigan, and Biden had 45% in the last poll. Trump with 47. Does that bother you at all when we still have time to go?
Well, I think we still have a little bit of time to go, but I think both of the camps are going to have to learn that just coming to make visits is not enough. I think the ball is in the court of our president. I think he has more to do and make changes, especially with 2 communities that are right here in Michigan, the Middle Eastern community and the African American community.
Well, let's talk about the Middle Eastern population. Representative Arbit, we were talking about 211,000 people who live in the state of Michigan, the largest number of Arab American votes in the country, right here in Michigan. 211,000 people, many of whom are not happy with this current president and his policy when it comes to Israel. Is that, I mean, are they going to say, forget Biden, I'm going to vote for Trump?
Well, listen, I can't speak for what other communities are going to do, but, you know, I'm very hopeful. You know, the President Biden is a very skilled diplomat, and frankly, I'm very hopeful that, you know, there's going to be some developments that come between, you know, Israel and the Palestinians that hopefully the Biden administration will shepherd, and hopefully the proof will be in the pudding.
When you heard President Biden say, I would not be running at all had it not been for Trump putting his name in the race, does that concern you about his abilities, his energy level, and maybe his acuity? Are you concerned at all about this current president's acuity, age, mental state, stamina, any of that? Does any of those boxes check for you?
I think that he takes the concern about our democracy very seriously in terms of former President Trump's threat to our democracy, and you know he feels that he has beaten the former president already once, and that he is the strongest candidate.
But do you believe that he is mentally acute? He has the stamina to go another 4 years and be the president of the United States?
I do believe that.
Sherry, you believe that too? You may disagree. I don't know. Just because you're a Democrat and you mentioned Republicans don't all feel the same way.
Please.
What do you think?
Please be honest.
This president?
We're talking about honest. We're talking about honest with an election denier sitting to my left.
Yeah, there you go.
I do think there are challenges, but I also realize that right now he is the best that we have running for president.
Kermit the Frog would do a better job.
But I mean, we have an election denier with 91 felonious counts and could be going to jail any day.
Brought by an abusive Department of Justice.
You have to look at what he's done.
He incited
let's talk about this.
Let's talk about this for a moment.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
Oh, yes,
wait a minute.
Come on now.
When did he get convicted of that? I missed the trial. I missed the trial.
Did you have a stroke on January 6th?
What happened?
He hasn't been convicted.
Well, listen, when you watch, Jim, you haven't been on the show in 4 years.
Yeah, right.
When you look at the views, when you look at the shots on television from January 6th, and you look at the people and what they did, had those, and I want you to follow me here, had those been a bunch of Democrats or people who didn't look like they did, would you feel the same way about that? You would?
They were Democrats.
Yeah, it would pass like the BLM riots. Those that was a bigger insurrection than a protest on January 6th.
But they stormed was inhabited. Hold on, guys. But that's the Capitol.
If you get
sacred ground, if you saw a bunch of Antifa
they assaulted a federal building.
Going in and wrecking it, would you think the same way?
Do I subscribe to what they did on January 6th as rioters? Hell no. Was it an insurrection? That is a joke.
So define insurrection.
Insurrection is taking up arms against your own country.
They did.
No,
they did.
The other one shot was
Ashley
lady,
Babbitt, and she was a former
Let me guess, she was a martyr, right?
But Senator Ron said, you're not proud of that day, are you?
Of course.
That's not a proud day.
Nobody's proud of it.
No one should be.
Let me finish. Potentially 1 million people, 1,000 people that they've convicted. But the point was, what did Trump do?
Who incited it?
I'm going to get to that. What did Trump say? He said, go
will be wild.
What did he say? What did he say? I watched it 100 times now. Peacefully and patriotically protest.
Yeah.
That's all he said. Peacefully.
Meet me at the lift. It's going to be wild.
Hold on. I got to ask you a question. Senator Ron said, what about fight like hell? And what about the fact that, hold on one second,
Gretchen Whitmer said that on the protest on Right to Work. Fight like hell. She's screaming.
So what about
no one took up arms because of
Gretchen Whitmer.
Senator Ron said,
January 6th either.
Right.
Jim, hold on one moment. What happens when the President of the United States sits in the Oval Office watching the scenes of the insurrection, which you admit were not proud moments, and did not get in front of a microphone sooner to say, stop this? Why? Do you wish he did? Do you wish he did something sooner?
I think he...
do you think should he have done something sooner?
I can't quote what he said during those moments, and I wasn't in the Oval Office.
What did he do?
Should he have done
Forget
more?
what
He offered the National Guard to Nancy Pelosi. Should he have turned him down?
He watched it happen.
But this is a political issue. This is not the. We've never had an insurrection. I don't know. Someone's got to say that you've committed something. I would like to have seen a hearing or some kind of thing. We don't have that with that. That's my problem with this.
We had an entire congressional
could Trump
investigation.
Have done something? Of course. But that goes to his whether he's reelected.
Charlie, he could have acted like the president of the United States.
So don't reelect him. So don't vote for the guy. Don't vote for the guy.
Right now,
to prevent him from getting on the ballot, I think is a totally different issue. And I don't want some secretary of state. I don't want that. I
think it's interesting that Trump's going to water. I think it's interesting that Trump's going to water.
That is running for office with how many felonies, hush money cases, you name it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that Trump's going to Waterford. Waterford, I think this is in your district, right?
It is.
Yes.
Yep.
Waterford is a place that is close politically. It leans a little bit more to the right. But if Biden is able to keep that close, then he's likely will have won Michigan. But I think Trump going to Waterford is an indication that he's a little bit worried about his suburban base.
Let me ask you this.
I don't think he's worried about that
at all.
But first of all, I have a question for everybody here. Does anybody in their right mind think that Joe Biden is actually going to be the candidate for president in November?
I do.
I don't.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
What do you
not.
think is going to happen?
Somebody's going to pull him out of there. Obama.
Who's that somebody?
Perhaps Obama. And he's the guy who's, they're going to pull him aside and say, dude, you can't do this
So you
anymore.
think they
You're
would have already
embarrassing
done that,
yourself,
though?
your family, and the country.
And where will Trump be? In jail?
No,
So
I
who's
don't
gonna
believe
pull
he'll be
him
in
out?
jail.
You don't believe it? So
No.
he's just going to trial for no reason.
Exactly.
That's right.
Look what happened today in Atlanta. The attorney, the district attorney in Fulton County got her butt handed to her today, like you read about. That whole case is going away.
Jim, do you wish there was a better Republican candidate running for president right now?
I will tell you this, no. And I'll be honest with you. I said 2 years ago, I thought I would like to see Donald Trump pick Ron DeSantis as a VP. Trump for 4, DeSantis for 8. That appears like it's not going to happen. Maybe it can, maybe it can't. But at one time, just to answer your question, I was a supporter of Ron DeSantis becoming the president because of Trump's baggage. But when I've seen the abuse that was shoved on this man, I'm fully back in his corner.
Representative Arbin, we have 30 seconds left in this segment. I want to ask you this question. Do you have faith if something happens to Joe Biden in terms of his ability to serve, that Kamala Harris would make a great president of the United States?
Kamala Harris served as Attorney General.
Do you believe she would be a great president of the United States?
I think Kamala Harris would competently serve this nation as president.
We're going to come back on the other side of this break with final thoughts. And Charlie is taking Let It Rip on the road.
Trump and Biden. Polls say the election is really close in Michigan. Do you agree?
No. I think it has a lot to do with the border and the fact that it's open right now and most people want it closed. I know I do.
State's split. No one can decide on anything.
I can't say what I really want to say, can I? Because I think we need better choices.
I really don't want either one of them to win. No, I'm just saying we need a young president. I'm sorry.
Michigan's a very close state between Biden and Trump. Who do you think's going to win?
It's going to be a tight race. I'm hoping and praying it lands on Trump.
People I know, they want Trump. Other people, they want Biden. But I think I know more people that want Trump than Biden.
Who's ahead?
Biden. He's the president. is what it is.
You never know. Sometimes they let the wicked win. Look.
It sounds like a bunch of Lions fans watching the Super Bowl. I want them both to lose. You're hearing some people say that. Sherry, we got about 10 seconds to pop. Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. We got to make sure that we get the vote out. And our party, my party, Democrats, let's get into the neighborhoods in the heart of Detroit, Benton Harbor,
Voting
Flint,
is important.
Romulus.
Everybody
Bring out
deserves
the
to
people
vote.
that are doing the
Get
work.
the voices heard. Jim.
Mark my words, Joe Biden will not be the candidate on the November ballot. Donald Trump will win Michigan, he'll win Pennsylvania, he'll win Arizona, and he will be the 47th president of the United
Senator
States.
Ronstadt.
If you want a president that's going to open the border, keep millions and millions of people flowing in, fentanyl, child sex traffickers, this is what we have under this horrific guy who Biden, who doesn't have a brain.
Senator
We got to have Trump.
Thank you. Representative Arbit.
Democracy hangs in the balance. President Biden is the only one who's going to guarantee our constitutional democracy, our civic and political rights for the next 4 years, and so people have to vote for Joe Biden.
It's not up to them, it's up to you, and that's, of course, the decision that you'll make at the polls. We thank you for joining us on this edition of Let It Rip.